So, your Z6955 will not flow water. Let's go through a few possible common causes and get your faucet back in working order. First, test your faucet by placing your hand in front of the sensor for a few seconds. If you hear the solenoid click, it means that the electronics are most likely working properly and you probably have a water supply issue. If the solenoid does not click in response to your hand after a few tests, skip ahead for electronics issues. Let's begin by exploring a few possible water supply issues. Water supply issue number 1. The water supply valves are closed. This one's pretty simple. Make sure that both water supply valves are in the fully open position. Test the faucet. Water supply issue number 2. The LFilter is clogged or obstructed. Turn off the water supply valves. Locate the LFilter below the electronics module. Unscrew the bottom cap of the LFilter to access the screen mesh filter. Inspect and clean the filter as needed. Reassemble the LFilter. Turn the water supply valves back on and test the faucet. Water supply issue number 3. The solenoid valve is obstructed or inoperative. First, turn off the water supply valves. Remove the electronics module from the spout shank and disconnect the LFilter and water line so you can work above deck. Unplug the solenoid cable from the electronics module. Disconnect the solenoid assembly from the electronics module by removing the 2 Phillips head screws and carefully removing the solenoid assembly from the electronics module. Unscrew the filter housing to access the screen mesh filter. Inspect and clean the filter as needed. Then reassemble the solenoid assembly and reinstall on the electronics module. Plug the solenoid cable back into the electronics module. Reinstall the electronics module, LFilter, and water line to the spout shank. Turn on the water supply valves and test the faucet. Now let's take a look at a few possible causes of power or sensor issues. Electronics issue number 1. Dead or low batteries. To replace the batteries, locate the battery box on the electronics module. Remove the cover using your Allen wrench. Replace the 4 AA batteries and reinstall the battery box cover. Test the faucet. Electronics issue number 2. A bad cable connection. Under the sink deck, look for the power supply cable that runs from the faucet to the electronics module. Disconnect the power supply cable and check the pins inside the connection. If the pins are bent, see if you can straighten the pins and reconnect the power supply cable. If any pins are too damaged or missing, please call Zern Customer Care at 855-663-9876. Electronics issue number 3. Insufficient calibration. It's possible that when the faucet was initially installed, it may not have had enough time to calibrate prior to its first activation. Disconnect the power supply cable and wait for 30 seconds. Reconnect the cables, but allow for another 30 seconds before placing your hands or a target within the sensor range. You should hear a click of the solenoid once calibration is complete. Electronics issue number 4. A dirty sensor lens. Inspect the sensor lens on the faucet. If it's dirty or smudged, clean it with a soft cloth, not paper towel. The sensor lens should be free of any dirt, debris, or scratches. Electronics issue number 5. The electronics module needs to be reset. Disconnect the power supply cable. Reset the electronics module by short-circuiting the pins in the cable connection. Use an Allen wrench or other metal tool and very gently rake it across the tops of the pins to reset the electronics module. You may see a small spark, but this is normal. Reassemble, reinstall, and test the faucet. If none of these power or sensor issues applied to your situation, try circling back and addressing the water supply issues at the beginning of this video. If you need further assistance, please call Zern Customer Care at 855-663-9876. Thanks for troubleshooting with us today. Most often, one of these issues ends up being the culprit. And check out our huge library of how-to videos on YouTube.